All right, Jay Baba, everyone, and welcome to another session with Ward Parks on creation and its causes. Since we don't have the book available right now, we're going to have to try to muddle through it with Ward. He's going to share the screen from his PDF, and we have some readers set up. And the reason I chose these readers, just FYI, is because they have I know they have a good connection and a clear reading voice and things like that. So that'll make it easier for people who watch the video to be able to follow along with this also. All right, do you want to say anything before we start, Ward?
About this. Can you see the screen? Is it showing?
Yep.
So this is the second of the talks, and we could begin by looking at this figure, but I wanted to say a couple things about it. One is that this talk is a sort of another introduction in a way. Baba is not really coming to the main topic of his series in this talk yet, but he's talking again about the different kinds of knowledge of God. Remember in the first one, he talked a good bit about how if you want to know God, you have to find a master, and the master will bring you to God. So he's really addressing the state of the boys he's speaking to. In other words, find God through me. And now in this one, he's going to talk about the different levels of knowledge from the lowest to the highest. And I wanted to call your attention, I hope I can quickly find it. If my computer is, where are we? No, it's not there. In the third part of the book, there are 6 talks to the mandali. And let me see. Oh, sorry, I went past it. And one of them, so here where you can see we're page, here we are, page 345. This talk is the talk to the mandali. What is religion? The date is the same, 4th December. And here Nadia did a different version of the same diagram. So this is actually another rendering of the same talk, but it has a lot more material than comes up in the version of the talks the boys we have. I don't know how that happened. It's a very interesting extended story that Baba incorporates. And it so happens, for those of you who may know Deshmukh's Sparks from the Dissertations of Meher Baba, if some of you are acquainted with that book, it was published by Sheriar in the early 70s. It was published originally in 1967. That contains a lot of this content, so people might have run across it there. That is this version that appears much later in the book. So that's just to give you some textual history relating to this. But going back to our talk, here is the diagram. There on the right-hand side, you can see the source diagram. Actually, there are about 8 or 9 source diagrams. This is one of them that we worked from. And this is the revised version that Nadia created. And what this gives is these are 4 Sufi terms, and they're worth getting to know. These terms come up in God Speaks and Tiffin lectures. These are some of the Sufi terms that Baba used the most, and they refer to the levels of knowledge. So down at the bottom there, Shariat. It's in the news a lot. A lot of Americans would have heard of the Shariat, Sharia law. That's this. And but Baba uses it not with respect to Islam only, but with reference to that level of all of the religions: Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Judaism, Buddhism. It's the level of doctrine, dogma, rites, rituals, ceremonies. It's a ceremonial worship. So most of the religions of the world are in fact acting on the level of the Shariat. And so we put in symbols of the great world religions. And part of the point of this diagram, as Baba will be explaining, is that the religions are separate at the level of the Shariat. But when you enter into the spiritual path, they're not different anymore. So that's the tariqat. You may have, these are Sufi terms. If people have been involved in Sufism, they're the tariqats. And Baba associates that with seeing. Shariat, Baba associates, he's linking these levels with levels of knowledge, would be intellectual understanding, the kind of understanding that people like me have got. But in tariqat, on the spiritual path, and this probably refers to the lower planes, maybe the first 3-4 planes of the spiritual path, there you have sight of inner realities. And the level higher than that is marifat, gnosis. And there, like 5th and 6th planes, there you have real knowledge of inner realities. In the 5th plane, you have knowledge, direct experience of thoughts. And 6th plane, you have direct experience of feelings. And the highest level is realization. And that is, the Sufi term is hakikat. Hakikat. Hak means the truth. Hakikat is the state of the truth. So hakikat would be God realization. So those 4 terms again are shariat, tariqat, marifat, and hakikat. These are, as I say, terms which Baba used a lot. And okay, maybe to start maybe somebody could read this key. Do we should have the reading start with that?
Yeah, Diana Goodhart, would you be our first reader today?
Okay, this is the key to figure 3. The 4 levels in the pursuit of truth, which comprise the subject of the opening part of this lecture, are represented in figure 3 as A, B, C, and D, with an associated wording Meher Baba took from the lexicon of Sufism.
Yeah, so here that is, right? So you remember that, A, B, C, and D, and those 4 Sufi terms.
The spiritual pilgrim begins at the bottom, at the level of A, or Shariat, that is, the husk of religion, and from there ascends through B, Tariqat, or the initiatory stages of the spiritual path, on to the higher planes of Marifat, C, or the mystic esoteric knowledge of saints. The journey reaches its goal in D, Hakikat, or truth, which is to say, God realization. At the level of Shariat, the bottom rung on this ladder, the understandings and dogmas and rituals of different religions are distinct from each other, as is represented in this diagram by the symbols of different major world religions.
So here those are, right? So they're all separate at that level.
Thereafter, the path becomes one, and differences between the religions come to an end. Figure 41 on page 344 is another rendering of the same diagrammatic idea.
Okay, that's what I showed you a little bit earlier. Okay, so now here the lecture starts. This figure was right at the beginning of the lecture.
Still me?
Yes.
In figure 3, the letters A, B, C, D, E, F, etc. signify the various religions of the world. Now, Who gave these religions to humanity? The prophets did, which is to say, the Sadgurus, who, after attaining to realization, came back down to the world for the discharge of their duties.
Okay, do you want to read this note here? Can you
In
see it?
the- okay.
Hmm.
In these early years of his advent, Meher Baba did not often use the word avatar as a designation for the periodic incarnation of God in human form. Thus, Baba here attributes the foundation of the great world religions to Sadgurus, a term which, as time passed, Baba came to use synonymously with perfect master, when in fact Muhammad and Christ and Buddha, whom he names below, were more than this. The distinction between perfect master and avatar had not yet been explained by Baba in these early years. Later in this series of talks, however, Baba gave the boys hints of his own avataric status using that word, avatar.
Yeah, that's a remarkable thing about these talks, actually.
Okay, where am I? Okay. And what is the aim of their having descended thus, leaving the eternal bliss of their realized state? Their one and only purpose is to make others realized just as they themselves are, and towards the achievement of that object alone do they direct all of their workings, internal as well as external. To some, namely, to members of their inner circle, they impart realization in that very same lifetime in which they themselves are alive.
There's a note here. Yeah.
Elsewhere, Meher Baba has clarified that members of a Sadguru circle usually achieve realization several lifetimes after having been taken into the circle. Do you want me to read that other little part?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. See Baba's comments in his 26 November 1927 lecture, pages 338 through 39.
Okay, that's probably enough for that. But the thing to note is that this very matter is discussed, not in the talks to the boys, but in one of the talks to the Mandali that are later in this book.
As to those others closer in their connection than the general public and the people of the world, that is, those who may be called bhaktas and who have secured their place in the outer circle, these persons advance spiritually more than ordinary people do. To the world in general, these prophets and Sadgurus give a general spiritual push, which they bring to effect by laying down certain rules and regulations, which help the general populace to proceed as easily as possible towards the path and to enter into the stage of tariqat. These rules and regulations established by such spiritual masters or sadgurus are known as the tenets of a religion, to which people attach the name of the religion's founder, as, for example, the Zoroastrian religion named after the prophet known as Zoroaster, or the Christian religion named after Christ, the Mohammedan religion after Muhammad, and so forth.
Yeah, back in those days, they would often call it Mohammedism. More recently, Muslims have come to object to that, saying it's religion of Allah, not Muhammad. But in the early 20th century, Mohammedism was a common term.
This path, or marg, is called the Shariat marg, and it is meant for the masses and millions of the world. It represents the first step towards advancement in the spiritual line.
Let's see what that note, yeah.
The word Shariat or Sharia is specifically Islamic, yet Meher Baba used it as a designation for the exoteric aspect of religion in general. The phrase Shariat Marg yokes together Muslim and Hindu terms in a way that neither Muslims nor Hindus would typically have done.
You get that, right? In other words, this is kind of a language that no one would use in India, bringing a very Islamic term and a very Hindu term, Shariat Marg. But Baba would do that all the time.
Now, why have all the Sadhgurus and prophets given different religions? Why do they lay down different rules and regulations if their common aim was only to direct the minds of the people towards God? Why different rules for the solution of one common problem? Let us discuss this.
And I hope you don't mind if I'm jumping in from time to time, but having read this so much, this is addressing the matter of why the religions are different from each other. If there's one reality and one God, why are there different doctrines and different dogmas and teachings? Why are the religions, why do they contradict each other? This is one of the most interesting explanations that Baba gave on that. And notice that he's talking to boys. Some of them are Zoroastrian, some are Hindu, and some are Muslim. And I think there was even a Christian kid there.
Suppose that Shri, a Sadhguru, descends to the world plane to turn from worldliness those who have little or perhaps no connection with him from the past, such as members of his circle do. Now, setting aside the matter of his own circle members, who as a matter of course he will make God realized as he himself is, how is he to turn the faces of the masses and millions of the world in the direction of God and the spiritual path? And exactly when will he do this?
Well, thank you, dear Diana. That was very good. And our next reader will be Marvin. You ready, Marvin?
To bring this to accomplishment, Shri will begin by marking the certain points and factors in the environment, namely the time, place, mentality of the people, their inclinations and bent of mind, and so forth. And after making careful note of these conditions, he will think of some easiest and best way and will decide upon a particular doctrine, some keynote with which to guide the people, and he will proceed to preach the same. In short, this preaching of a doctrine of a
Here you go.
into the line and put on the path in no time. Indeed, not only can the Sadguru get you initiated in the path, but he can give you realization itself in the twinkling of an eye. Such tremendous powers he has. But he will use them only when he thinks it proper, and only after testing the candidate through a course of arduous, hard trials. In other words, not only can he lead you to the point of admission, but he can easily advance you through the various stages which he himself has seen, known, realized, and crossed. It is for this reason that the Nightingale of Shiraz sings such glorious tributes to the Murshid who can do such wondrous things.
Do we have a Persian speaker in attendance? Okay, well,
I don't see either.
I'll just read, I'll butcher it. Hafiz to boro bandagi e pire mugan kun, bar daman Vardaman e udast zan o azhame bexal. And the literal translation, you want to read that? That will give literal translations in the notes.
Hafez, go and make yourself a slave to the Pir Imogan. Touch your hand to his daman and sever yourself off from everything else. The Persian text for this couplet is from Codi's, etc.
Divan e Hafez, yeah. That apparently is the edition that they had in Baba's ashram. Kodsi.
And I suppose this is another way to say it. Oh, Hafez, Hafez, go and worship your master. Get a hold of his skirt with your hand. Sever all your connections. Give up everything. Ultimately, the same is true even for those who have no guru and who proceed on the path alone without one. They may succeed in turning their faces to God after ages and ages. When their turn and opportunity comes, they may advance, and advancing, find themselves enabled actually to see God himself. This is the most they can achieve on their own, but they cannot realize. For that, the grace of the realized guru is essential. Quite different is the case of those who travel with a guru. He can give them realization however and whenever he likes, by stages gradually, or all at once in a moment, as it pleases him. Thus, it can be seen that the Shariat Marg is too long and difficult, affording a rare chance to only one out of millions, and that too only if all the demands of the Shariat are most minutely and strictly observed. So what to do? How to move towards God at the earliest opportunity? The best and easiest way is the religion of Hakikat, the religion of love, or Prem. That is, the sublime, unbounded love for God. This means love for the Guru, who, after making a strict examination of the candidate or disciple, reveals this best and easiest way to him. But that test usually proves to be more than most of these candidates can successfully undergo. Here was related the recent incident concerning a telegram for Sheriar Mrubanpur.
Narabanpur. Now, you may recall that on December 2nd, when Baba's series of talks to the boys began, that very same day, 5 young men disciples, in the 20s, 30s, actual Mandalay, went into seclusion in these small, very small little cabins, tiny, like little closets that had been constructed immediately adjoining the crypt cabin. The crypt cabin is now Baba's Samadhi. They were not where the graves of Mara, of Mani and the women are on the right-hand side, but they're behind the Samadhi. And so they went into seclusion, and they were living just on milk and keeping silence. And they were to stay inside their little cabins. And Sheriar Marabanpur was one of these. And over the next 2 months, a whole bunch of them really had overpowering spiritual experiences at the very same time that the boys were going through their own version of this. So Sheriar Marabanpur was one of them. He had just arrived from Iran. He came with this a Baidul in July of 1927. So this is like December 1927. In July, brought 14 boys from Yazd in Iran. One of them I mentioned Esfandiar Vasali because people knew him, but also there's this Abdullah Pakravan and others. And Sheriar Mirabanpur came with them. So he had just gone into seclusion in the cabin, and a telegram came for him. That's what Baba's talking about.
While he was still here outside, not yet having entered his room, nothing happened. But the moment he was inside his seclusion cell, a telegram came for him. And I'll read
read the note. Yeah.
the text makes reference here to one of the 5 men. The others were Gopal Swami, Shankarnath, Manakar, and Gulab Shah, whom Baba had selected to seclude themselves, each in his own cell, in a structure called the Sadak Ashram, located immediately adjacent to the crib cabin. During the proposed seclusion, they were supposed to meditate, fasting on milk and water, without leaving their respective cells for any reason. They stepped into their rooms and commenced their seclusion on 2nd December, which also happened to be the date of the first of the lectures in this book. In Sheriar's case, the moment he had made his way into his room, a telegram came for him. Since he was a new resident of Mehrabad, having traveled from Iran with Baidul and the group of Meher Ashram boys the previous July, the arrival of a telegram would have been an important event, sorely tempting him to leave his cell and break Baba's seclusion order. Our sources do not tell us how he responded, but since his seclusion continued, along with that of the other 4 men, presumably he passed the test.
So do you guys get the point here? I mean, nowadays a telegram is like no big deal, or like an email message, but in those days it was quite a big deal, especially for someone like him who had just come from Iran. It might be from his father, his mother might have died, it might have been crisis, come home and meet. In other words, it would be a big deal. And having just gone into seclusion, it would be quite a big test for him whether he would come out of the cell and get the telegram. I'm sure that's the point that Baba was making here.
Turning once again to the boys, Shri remarked that their testing, even then, was underway and in progress, side by side with these daily explanations. The time is approaching, he said. The time is near, so beware and prepare yourself for the prize of seeing and knowing God.
We have one more paragraph in this talk.
Who knows, tomorrow or any day now, Shri may lock himself up in seclusion. And who then will explain all these matters to you? So act according to the instructions that Shri has given. Create prem, create love by constant meditation. And after the 4 daily routine works are concluded, Shri may reveal the path to 5 or 50, or even half the world, as it pleases him to do. All depends on one's preparation and deserving.
Okay, that's the end of that lecture.
Yeah. Shall we see if there are any questions about that? You
Yeah.
can raise your hands. I posted earlier. If anybody has a question, go ahead and raise your hand. If not, we'll go on to the next lecture. Jim Wilson.
Well, I just want to make a comment that
Sure.
I find it interesting how Baba says how important the Sheriar is. For most people, it is the kind of entrance into any kind of advancement on the path. And there's such a tendency to short shrift any of the religions and basically smear them. And Baba himself said that many of them have disintegrated into what was far beyond or far under what the prophet was saying. but it is important to know that, those people who are going to church every Sunday and things like that, that we have to respect that.
And these shariats were given by the Sadgurus or avatars.
Yeah.
And they were actually laid down according. That's such a neat passage where Baba, it's like Baba's explaining to these boys about how he takes note of the Sadguru after returning to creation consciousness, takes note of the tendency of the people of the time and observes them. And having done so, then he selects a keynote or a key doctrine. And that, I mean, like Buddha, there's the wheel of the law and the Four Noble Truths. Muhammad, there's no God but God, and Muhammad is his prophet. You can see different keynotes. So here he's explaining how that happens.
Yeah.
So Chris, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, just a question. Was there a page that started with the word doctrine? It seemed like Baba was talking about how the world religions form, and then there was kind of an abrupt change in the topic.
In this, this page here, doctrine at a particular time. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes. Did we read that page?
I hope we did. In short, this preaching of a particular, I think we read that, didn't we?
Mhm.
Yeah. Doctrine at a particular time. Yeah, that's the very passage we were just referring to. But for a particular mass of people requires beforehand. Now, this is the Sadguru, so it's sort of like Baba is coming back into creation consciousness, a close study and observation of the time, place, circumstances, mentality of the masses, and so forth, as we have said. Every prophet has done this, and each has highlighted. Did we read this?
We didn't read
I
it.
think Chris is right. I think we missed that too, because I was reading and it seemed like a disjointed connection from one page to the other.
Oh, I guess we jumped over this page. Well, let's read it now. Oh my goodness. How did we? Okay. Do we want to have someone read this? Doctrine at a particular time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Okay.
Oh,
Every prophet has done this, and each has highlighted his own particular doctrine as he deemed best in view of the time, people, and circumstances. Muhammad, a realized Sadguru, when he came down to the earth plane, decreed certain rules and regulations for the people to follow as he judged best, such as would lead them to the path of truth. So did Buddha in his time, and so did they all. That path laid down and prescribed by each prophet for the general masses in his time is called the Shariat Marg. It constitutes the first step by which one proceeds towards the tariqat and thence onwards towards realization. It must be noted that those immersed in the Shariat Marg, which is to say the general masses of humanity, are only playing with the outer cover of religion, the real end and aim of which is to realize God. For in their higher object, all religions teach the same thing and indicate rules that lead the generality of mankind towards the one ultimate aim, the realizing of self through their ways, though their ways and doctrines differ in accordance with the different times and conditions in which they are preached. We need to mark and underscore at this juncture that this Shariat Marg, preached by the prophets for the benefit of the masses, if followed promptly and wholeheartedly adhered to, leads on to the point B in figure 3, which signifies the entrance and the beginning of the real path through the plains, which one experiences at the stage of tarikat, where one turns one's face towards God and one's back to the world.
So just to
Even
flash back to the figure, you see tarikat there. He's talking there, that B level. What he's referring to once you get beyond the shariat. Sorry, here, let me take a second. Okay.
figure 3, which signifies the entrance and the beginning of the real path through the plains, which one experiences at the stage of tarikat, when one turns one's face towards God and one's back to the world. Even this is just the mere beginning, but it is the real beginning. Until this crucial turning, all experiences in the world was like grappling and grasping at the shadow. For this reason, the near impossibility of progress under such conditions, only one out of millions, 20 millions roughly stated, reaches this point unaided after following strictly the injunctions of the Shariat Marg. Now we come to the next stage, which pertains to those connected with a murshid or sadguru, or more particularly, those of the outer circle, the bhaktas of a master. What is their religion? One thing and only one thing, to obey the order of the master. Hafez explains this beautifully. Be me sajede Ramjin kon garat piri mugan guyad ke salek bakhbar nabuwadze ra aramzi manzalha.
So the
Well,
literal translation is down below.
This couplet translates, color your prayer rug with wine if the Pir-i Mugan tells you to, since the Salik is not unacquainted with ways and customs of the stations. Mansil,
Manzil, as in
yeah,
Manzili.
hard to read. Mansil,
Yeah.
okay. Pir-i Mogan, literally the pier or advanced site from the town of Mogan, is a phrase Hafiz often used for what Baba designated as the master, or here, Murshid. Manzil means house. It became a technical term in Sufi spiritual parlance for stations of the path. The quotation above is from the third couplet of the first ghazal in Muhammad Qodsi's edition of the ghazals of Hafiz, Divan-i Hafiz, Tehran, Nashr Shesma, 2003, page 68. Though Qodsi's edition has been superseded in Islamic scholarship, it has been preferred in this edition as a source probably used in Meher Baba's early ashrams. This couplet can also be found in the edition of Parviz Natal Kanlari, Divine-i Hafiz.
Yeah, and so forth. Yeah. So this is explaining the reason that we've used Kodsi. One of the Premashram kids, as an old man, apparently had indicated that that was the book they had. So that's the edition we use. By the way, the reason when right after a couplet of Hafiz, the book will usually give a translation, but it's kind of, looks like it's Baba's translation with explication. He's kind of freely explaining it a bit. So we put in the footnotes a very limited literal translation of the couplet, but Baba goes on with the to translate it himself.
So Ward, you're saying the part within the text is Baba's translation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, sometimes he's kind of free with it. He'll explain it, or he'll amplify, or sometimes he'll be literal, because when he would have had this read out, some of those in attendance would have known it, the Persian boys would. So then he would be explaining what it means. So we're giving in the footnote a very literal translation, but this is Baba's kind of glossing and explication.
So, quote, color your prayer cloth with wine if your Murshid tells you to do so, because he is not ignorant. He knows fully well about the winds and wares of the path, end quote.
Mm.
Or to explain and bring out the implications of this couplet more fully, if your guru asks you to go in a way that is contrary even to the dictates of your own religion, obey his orders. For why was religion given in the first place? To enable you to arrive at point B in the diagram, and from there to gain entry into the real path, which is possible for you if you follow strictly all the tenets that your religion lays down. But if, on the other hand, you have the good fortune to come into the orbit of a Sadguru, immediately you will be brought into the line and put on the path in no time. Indeed, not only can the Sadguru get you initiated in the path, but he can give you realization itself in the twinkling of an eye. Such tremendous powers he has, but he will use them only when he thinks it proper and only after testing the candidate through a course of arduous, hard trials. In other words, not only can he lead you to the point of admission, but he can easily advance you through various stages, which he himself has seen, known, realized, and crossed. It is for this reason that the Nightingale of Shiraz sings such glorious tributes to the Murshid who can do such wondrous things.
So we read all this earlier. Do you want to read it again, or we probably got it right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was the place where we must have missed a whole 2 pages.
Chris, thanks for noticing that we
catching
skipped a page. It was a critical 2 pages. Yeah. So in the version of this that you'll find later in this book, there's a very, very long 4 or 5 page story that Baba gives to illustrate this point about a boy who is traveling. Anyway, it's a wonderful story illustrating the difference between the Shariat and the guidance of a master. And apparently it's the same talk. It got left out of this version, but put into that version.
So there are any questions about what we just read? Or anything else in this particular topic? Go ahead and raise your hands if you do. And we have Cliff Ives. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. I was just wondering if Baba addresses the fact that the Sharia, the knowledge, the rules and regulations that the Prophet gives, does he talk about the corruption of these things? Because it seems to me there's so much of the Prophet's word that has been corrupted in the Sharia of religions.
Yeah.
He seems to, I'm guessing that he just doesn't want to badmouth religions and
in the Tiffin lectures, which Baba had given the year before, Baba does talk about that, how they've been corrupted and spoilt, and he's very sharply critical of the religions. My guess is that with these kids, he just gave them a little bit and didn't want them to think about that, because he was going to whisk them right up into the upper spheres very quickly. So I think that this wasn't the audience wanted to be thinking about that.
We know the
That's
other
my
thing,
guess.
Lord, I think, is that there was a lot of infighting among the different religions in Baba's ashram at that time. There was a lot of conflict arising, plus in the village, right?
Yeah.
So he was being sort of careful with the boys about how he talked about this, because it would get back to their
Right.
parents and then come and pull them out.
Yeah, and he probably didn't want them to start brooding on religious differences among them. I mean, he had Muslims there, Hindus, Zoroastrians, Christian. I mean, I always marvel at the apparent harmony of all these different groups within this Mayor Ashram. You never hear one word about religious conflict. So I think Baba was very carefully keeping those problems from coming up. Seems like.
Cheryl, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just have a comment. I've heard Mayor News pronounce it Pire Mohan many, many times. So the G is not pronounced in the name Pire Mohan. That's
Mahan,
how the Iranis, the Zoroastrians
see.
From Iran pronounce it.
Yeah.
Pire
That's the
Mohan.
name. Apparently, Baba said that Hafiz's master had told Hafiz not to name him directly in his poetry. So Hafiz never does. But he'll use that term, the Piri Mohan. Maybe it said ha or something. I don't know, maybe some consonant. Yeah.
Elizabeth, did you have a question? I thought you had.
I was just a comment that really,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of times Baba will tell people to do things and you think it's just crazy. And I mean, this is the explanation for why it's just a way to get people to move further along the path, you know, and the critical nature of obedience. And you know, and it's so easy to question, and there's so many stories about people who come to Baba and they question him. I mean, even people who are spiritually advanced and they can't take the guidance, and Baba will have to ask them to leave, or they end up going away, and then the upshot of the story is something bad happens to them, or they lose contact with Baba, or they don't progress. You know, that's the end of the story. And this is a very interesting explanation, I thought, of when a master tells you to do something, even though it's against what you would normally have in your own shariat or whatever, like telling Hindus to eat beef. I mean, you know, he would do things like that. And it just, to the rational mind, it sounds nuts. But when you understand the spiritual explanation, it makes more sense. That's my only comment.
When you get the book, if you go to the other version of this that Baba gave to the Mandalay, Baba has a 3, 4, 5-page story on exactly this. It shows it beautifully, you know, how the character representing the Sadhguru, and Baba explains this, tells this young man, this kid, has him do all sorts of things that directly contradict what he was told by his father. And his father represents the Shariat. And the point is that when you have when you don't have a master, it's best to follow the Shariat. But when you have a master, you follow the master, even if the rules of the Shariat are directly contradicted. Fantastic story on that exact point.
Okay, Jack. Jay Baba.
Yeah, referring back to what Ward was talking about 5 minutes ago on the Baba's attempt to be discreet in regards to religions, I think the story of Ali in Sobs and Throbs brings that whole thing out pretty much. Where his father constantly, you know, came to the ashram and pulled him out, and Ali escaped the house that he was locked up in and came back to the ashram. I just wanted.
And that happened. Ali was the most spectacular case, but that happened with a bunch of the other boys too. So there really was religious conflict outside the Mir Ashram coming from the parents. That was a big theme.
Thank you, Jack.
Welcome.
Chris.
I just want to say that chart is wonderful. I love that, how it shows the different religions and then they all merge together as one gets to the spiritual path up there. I've never seen a better graphic illustration of how they all come together in the higher realm. Great chart.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, if I can make a comment, Ward, you said that there was a lot of harmony in the ashram, but from things I've read, like even in the Tiffin lectures and from Dr. Ghani's writings and some other places, it sounds like there were quite a few episodes where they got into heated discussions with each other.
No, I meant within the Mir Ashram, not within the Mirabad Ashram.
Yeah, okay.
Because Baba was really creating a very special atmosphere for these kids that was different from that among the Mandali. The Mandali weren't even allowed to touch them, or to say anything. So he was really doing special work with them that was distinct from every other group that he was working with.
Thank you.
Yeah, there was plenty of conflict among the Mandali. Of course, they all knew that, that God is beyond the differences of religion, but the differences came up anyway.
Diana.
Yes, Ward, you may have mentioned this before, but who created the first charts that we see, for example, on the right? Because this beautiful rendition on the left was taken from the one on the right, and there will be many.
Right.
Do we know them?
I don't. I wish we did. I mean, we have a lot of these are in the source manuscript, so some of them will be in the very source manuscript for this book. We're calling it Shri's Explanations on Creation and the Universe. But there are a lot of gaps, a lot of places where a diagram is meant to be, there was just a gap. So very often I had to really search widely for many other places and found a lot of them in other places. But how Baba did it, is never explained anywhere. I presume, I would say almost certainly for some of the diagrams we're going to see later, Baba had various among the Mandali. I think Adi was pretty good at this, and there may have been others. Draw a version of the diagram on a board, and it probably was on display sometimes for several lectures in a row, and the boys could have looked at it, because Baba is clearly referring to diagrams sometimes. So he must have had someone among the Mandali draw them. I imagine Baba wouldn't have drawn it himself because he was not writing at this time, but he could have, told them what to do. I wish we knew things like this.
Many of you may not know this, but Ward was for 25 years imprisoned in the rice go down in Maribad, all by himself. All he had was a little hovel in the corner with an old blanket. I think he had a lantern and a couple nubs of a pencil, putting all this together. So we're very grateful for all those years. Now you're out of your hovel, we can enjoy it.
I will say this, you're seeing the recreated diagrams, but a massive amount of work went into this. Already all the sources had been assembled, but Nadia and I spent a whole year and 3 months meeting 3-4 days a week, going over all the sources, and there might be mistakes anyway. By the way, part of the point of having a key is so that people can see for themselves what at least one of the sources was like. Many times there are many sources, so you would select just one for the key. But on the Trust website, all of the sources are going to be up online. So these diagrams, there's an interpretive dimension that has gone into it, you know. So you can be skeptical of that if you
Okay.
wish.
Elizabeth, do you have another question or comment? Unmute. You're muted yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I find it very comforting that Baba also said that you don't have to leave your religion. And I think there are other places where it's said that he came to revitalize all the religions. And just like Elizabeth Pattern said, that she doesn't go to church for church's sake. She takes Baba to church. And I feel very much that way when I go to church. I was raised in a very strong Presbyterian background, church every Sunday and all of that. And then I went away from it. And then, but I do think the discourses in particular revitalized a lot of the teachings in the Christian tradition. And though these may not have been corrected by the Sadhgurus, I mean, the religions, previous religions, perhaps when the avatar comes, they are all revitalized in the way in which they were originally intended. And the focus on the unity of the basic values is reestablished.
Good point.
Yeah, Baba, these symbols, Baba worked a lot with the religions and with these very symbols, like right on his tomb, you have the symbols of religions. And I'm sure most of you are acquainted with that period in the New Life where he had these models, alabaster models created in Mananash, and Baba would sit and do some kind of work with them for hours together. So it was a major part of his work, apparently.
And of course, there's Amartithi, which I think is the most wonderful celebration. It's my favorite, where all the religions and the cults of the worlds are brought together like beads on a string. That is kind of what brings me to Baba, actually, that concept. And Amartithi is a celebration of this very thing.
Thank you.
It's interesting because Baba brings up this subject so prominently in this second lecture, and then that's it, man. That's all he has to say about it. He really had a special work with these kids. He was giving them a little of a framework, but he was going to take them right into the inner realities.
Thanks. Jim Wilson.
Ward, were you naked in the go down? Because what I'm thinking, there's a reference earlier about the ones on the path were naked, and then I noticed that Baba referred to the chariot as the clothing that you're in. So do you think that that's what he means when he's talking about them being naked, that they are now separate from the chariot?
Might be, yeah. Is my microphone making a lot of noise, by the way?
Yeah, it sounds like there's a looseness to it, but it's not too bad.
I don't know what the problem is. Let me try.
It's kind of breaking up a little bit.
Can you hear me anyway?
Yeah, we can hear you.
You're good.
You're
Yeah.
fine.
Okay. I don't know what the deal is. I'll have to ask Nama next time I see him.
Yeah, let him do a check on that. Any other questions?
We
We can go on to the next one, and it gets juicier and juicier. Elizabeth, you want to go on? Okay, yeah. All right, why don't we go on then, Ward? You ready?
Okay.
So our first reader now is, let's see, Jim.
Okay. Now this is where it really begins. And I'll just give a little explanation that gets repeated in this. By the way, when you see this this treatment here on the right-hand side, page 111, where it's kind of screened back and that little dotted line at the bottom, editor. This means it's not Baba's voice. This is from the editor. And there was a need for that. And what happened was that the primary source for Creationist Causes was the typed manuscript that the Rice Go Down came in a top sheet copy and then a carbon copy. The carbon copy is oftentimes more valuable because many times the diagrams would be filled in there, but not the top sheet. And it turned out that the Pearsons had a third copy of it. This diagram we saw of Baba and the eye and the universe, that's from the manuscript that they had. But in all three manuscripts, the first page of this lecture is missing. Everyone starts on page 2. It's numbered page 2. But there are two other important manuscripts there are a bunch of them, but two especially important that I used a lot that look like they were directly, all of these talks apparently were recorded by Chanji, and the typed manuscript we have is apparently based on that. And Chanji's original manuscript is lost. But it looks like Ramju, one of Ramju's write-ups, drew directly on Chanji's original manuscript, and it tracks very closely to the typed manuscripts. So we have the version in Ramju's manuscript. So I used that for these pages, and it's probably very reliable and very good. And thank God we have it, because this is actually significant stuff in this very first page. So, and you know where the West Tank Room is, right? This that's right now, for those of you who remember Upper Maribide, it's the museum room. You know the museum room? It's the room on that big building in Mayor Retreat facing the Samadhi. So Baba at this time had not yet gone into seclusion in the crypt cabin, but would come to that room to give his talks. In about 2 weeks, he moved to the crypt cabin and spoke from there.
Elizabeth, did you have a question before we start the next one?
Well, I just want to ask Ward, does anyone have any idea what happened to Chanji's manuscript? I mean, was it burned up or something, or they just
No
can't
idea.
find it?
I mean, we've inferred its existence through various indications. In the back of the book, in the supplement, there's a very full and detailed discussion of all the sources and all that we know about them, for anyone interested in that when the book comes out. I know most people are not going to read that kind of thing, but some people will. And it's important to give this information to authenticate this edition.
All right, Jim.
Okay. In all three primary source manuscripts for Meher Baba's explanations to the Meher Ashram boys, the first page of this talk is missing. The text in these sources begins on page 2, and the date is given as 5th or 6th December 1927. However, strong textual evidence suggests that the substantial content of the missing page 1, though written up in a different form, appears in the opening pages of one of the principal analog manuscripts, Ramju's Explanations in pencil. Much of the content of this portion of Ramju's Explanations in pencil is foundational conceptually for what follows, both in the succeeding sections of Ramju's Explanations in pencil and in the series of lectures in Explanations, starting from the talk of 5th or 6th December. Accordingly, the relevant extract from Ramju's Explanations in pencil, pages 1 to 3, is presented here, including 2 diagrams. Note from the editors.
So that's the source and what follows.
Okay.
And let's see, maybe we could come to the diagram when the discussion gets there, which will happen soon.
Okay. Extracts from Amju's explanations in pencil, pages 1 to 3. First of all, let us remember that God is neither ocean, nor wave, nor drop, neither light, nor light globe, nor light point, neither knowledge, nor knowing. If not these, how much less can he be taken to be their opposites, hollowness and shadow and ignorance? To put it in a nutshell, the Almighty stands altogether beyond imagination and intellect, and always is and remains one indivisible whole.
I hope you won't mind if I jump in from time to time.
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
This is really an important paragraph. Notice these three systems: light, light globe, light point, and shadows. That's one. Ocean, wave, drop, bubble. That's another. Knowledge, knowing, ignorance. So these are three systems that he's going to be correlating and developing enormously over the next 4 lectures or so. Also, this is going to come up explicitly, but just to sort of adumbrate it, the opposites: hollowness, shadow, ignorance. So like shadow is the opposite of light. Ignorance is the opposite of knowledge. Hollowness in a bubble is the opposite of ocean. So there's going to be a big development on the theme of opposites. It's going to come up. So he's given a lot of the menu right here.
This must be clearly realized. Otherwise, all delving into this subject is equivalent to groping in and grappling with shadows. For indeed, all this intellectual understanding is nothing at all, of no real consideration, when set against the actual seeing and experiencing of God. Yet to glean some faint idea of this mighty existence through the intellect, let us at least understand as far as possible the infinite Creator's equally infinite creation. In the endeavor to do this, let us compare what is really and truly the incomparable with ocean, light, and knowledge, since these serve as the most suitable similes under the circumstances.
And here's a footnote.
Footnote. While the ocean and light can readily be understood as figurative terms for an abstract referent, since both ocean and light literally designate sensible realities in the phenomenal universe, it is more unusual to think of knowledge this way. Yet Baba refers to all three, ocean, light, and knowledge, as similes. Perhaps he means to convey that what ordinary people think of as knowledge is as dissimilar from the reality of God as light and ocean are when they are literally conceived. When Baba says that these provide the most suitable similes under the circumstances, he seems to be referring to the limitations of intellectual understanding under the present circumstances of his communication to ordinary gross conscious persons in attendance, the primary audience, of course, consisting of boys.
Okay, so you've got these three so take note of them. Ocean, light, knowledge is going to develop. And here's the figure connected with this. And okay, here's the source, as you can see. But A is the ocean of unconscious God. In God Speaks terms, this would be the original beyond state of God. Yeah. And B is the Om point. We saw in the first of the figures that B is creator, preserver, destroyer, Ishwar, the third state of God. And C is the same as we saw in that earlier figure. These are all the Jivatmas. And Nadia on the down here on the right did a little blow up. You can see the bubbles, the Atma at the center and the bubble encasing it. A drop, the drop as the Atma is identical with Paramatma in Baba's, metaphysics, the Vedanta metaphysics. And the Jivatma is the drop soul in the state of bondage. And these are Shivatmas. And this is a useful term that Baba used to like to use in these days. That's a God-realized person. It's a very good general designation for a God-realized person of any type. A Majub, a Jivan Mukta, a Sadguru, an Avatar, they would all be Shivatmas. So this diagram is showing, you might say, the totality of everything. Unconscious, God beyond, the creator, preserver, destroyer, all the Jivatmas and the Shivatmas. And though I don't know, perhaps in the future, people will speculate, we copied this egg shape from the source down here. It just, there is, in Hinduism, there's the cosmic egg, as a matter of fact, Hiranyagarbha. So maybe this is a reference to that in some way. I don't know. Now, somehow this got garbled. I've got to fix this.
Too late now. Somebody going to the printers.
No, it's not from
Oh, it's
that.
just on yours.
Yeah, it's a different feature, a different element that there. But I don't know, Jim, can you read this, or is this going to be too hard to read?
Boy, like figure 2, figure 4 represents the oceanic totality of all existent things, which is to say, the infinite entirety of God and his creation. Yet the simile...
Yet while
B and C, the Om point and the universe of Shivatmas, or drop souls, manifesting as bubbles, carry the same meaning as in figure 2, A and D differ. For A represents the ocean of God in its original unmoving, unconscious state, and D comprises the totality of all Shivatmas, which is to say, God-realized souls or drops who have realized their unity with the ocean. Relations between the Atmas, drops, and bubbles, a major theme in subsequent lectures, is illustrated in the insert on the lower right.
That's this down here.
Yeah.
So I'll just flick back quickly to that earlier diagram, which is related to this one. But in this diagram, A there on the left, that is actually God, self-conscious God aware of himself. B is the creator, preserver, destroyer, and C is all the Jivatmas. So this one is different in that the original state on the left, A, is not God self-conscious, but God unconscious. And that's going to be the pattern in all the diagrams that follow. He's telling the story of the movement from primordial unconsciousness to self-realization. Okay, should we go back to everybody get this diagram more or less so clear?
The video was blank. You know what I mean? So it must have been somewhat uncovered, and the audio is off.
Sorry, that was someone unmuted. You're okay. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
It's about the diagram. That egg. It reminds me of Baba's discussion of the chicken and the egg, the mischievous chicken. Would it be related to that at all?
Well, it was before Baba had given out that figure, but both of them, Mike, I mean, in Hinduism, there is the notion, I'm forgetting the word right at the moment. There is a term Hiranyagarbha, but there's another one, and I've forgotten the name, that is the primordial cosmic egg. That's an idea in Hindu metaphysics. It's sort of hard for this not to look like an egg, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there it is. That's where we took it from. So it really does bring that to mind to me. So maybe Baba was making a link with that ancient Hindu idea. Yeah.
It looks like Karen Levine has her hand up. Do you want to take a
Yeah.
question? Ward?
Yeah, I got a question about that diagram, the bubble, and the several, looks like eggs inside of it, of the Atma bubble and the seed, you know. So are those, is there any explanation about that? Is that like veils? Is that the reality that we're projecting out? Is that our family unit? What, or, you know, what is there explanation?
Well, to begin with, this is the actual source. I wish I could blow it up a little bit more. So a lot of that structuring that you'll see here was come up with by Nadia and me. So, but what we meant to, this will be clarified as we move along before too long with Prana and Akash, which we haven't reached yet. But hollowness is Akash, and Pran is movement. And when they meet, that's when you get the Jivatma. So I personally think that the bubble, anyway, well let's return to that when we really get to Pran and Akash. But that was our thinking here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right. I want to keep going, Jim.
Okay. Let us begin with the figure on the facing page, which we will take as our introduction to this subject. This figure presents God as an infinite ocean with innumerable drops, all of which are themselves nothing but that same very ocean. Now,
right,
as you...
so that's all of these drops are actually identical with the totality, right? Each drop is the ocean. This is in the first chapter of God Speaks, Bob explains this. This is Advaita Vedanta. That's its great theme.
Atma is Paramatma idea.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's see. Now, as you can see, Figure 4 shows 3 subdivisions within the ocean, which nonetheless remains infinite and indivisible.
You see the 3 subdivisions, right? A, C, and D.
Right.
B is just a single point.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to have to move pages now. All right. Okay.
The portion marked A denotes the ocean still as a mill pond and altogether quiet. This is God unconscious, which knows neither itself as the ocean or the everything, nor does it know the universe, which has the nothing latent within it. This state of God, if given a term or designation, can be called Brahma, or the soul of souls. The portion,
yeah, here's the note at the bottom. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Brahma serves as the root for several different words in the Indic languages. At different times, Baba used these words with different meanings. It is unlikely that he intends here Brahma, the creator, and the creator, preserver, destroyer trinity. His sense seems to be closer to what in Vedanta is called Brahman, which designates the supreme reality.
So that's what he seems to be talking about here in
Yeah.
A.
Yeah. Okay. The portion marked C depicts the ocean in motion, when separated into innumerable drops which manifest as bubbles. At this stage, every drop, though still one with the ocean itself, is awake, unlike the ocean soundly sleeping in A. Nonetheless, the consciousness of the drops in C is not directed toward the self. Because of the bubbles, the drop, though remaining identical with the ocean, recognizes itself as the drop only. If we assign a term to this state of God, that term should be Jiv, which refers to the individual soul.
So that's a term worth, getting to know. Jeev and Jivatma are really the same.
Yeah. Okay. The third portion, labeled D, depicts that same ocean with drops such as Christ, Krishna, Muhammad, Zoroaster, Buddha, Moses, Tukaram, Tajuddin Baba, and indeed all Sadgurus. Let's see what that says.
Yeah.
Okay. Since, as already noted, Baba had not yet differentiated between perfect masters and avatars at this time, all of these great spiritual personalities are here designated as Sadgurus, even though some of them were in fact the avatar. Let's see. Here too, every drop is one with the indivisible whole ocean, but all of these drops in C know that they are the ocean and not the drop at all. In other words, God in this state is conscious of self. If given a term and label, this state of God can be called Shiv, or the enlightened soul. Question: what is creation? Answer: manifestation. Maybe someone would like to pick up the reading.
Yes, Marion, can you read?
Cassandra, Can I
Elizabeth,
just-
can you wait till the end?
well, it sounded like a contradiction though between C and D, and I just was confused.
Well, we'll talk about that. We want to read
Okay.
more. Give us about 10, 15 minutes to read and then we'll take questions, okay? Go ahead.
Does it
Go
begin
ahead,
with
Mary.
question? It begins with question.
Yes.
Question. Who or what is the creator? Answer. The same ocean, which was still in its original state A, when it began to move, to create, and so became the creator at point B, as shown in figure 5 on page 115. The creator, in other words, is that very point through which the creation manifests.
I'll just quickly show you, figure 5. Let me see. Yeah, that's the creator point right there. Let's see. Yeah, sorry, I'm sort of jumping around here. Okay, and now we have another editor's comment.
At this juncture, we resume with quotes, explanations, page 2 of the 5th to 6th December 1927 lecture. Yet we have incorporated in the form of figures 6 and 7, 2 further diagrams from Ramju's explanations in pencil, pages 5 and 6, that are missing from the explanations version of this lecture, but that are directly relevant to its content. In fact, Ramju's explanations in pencil and the explanations manuscripts track with each other fairly closely through this section.
Right, so this is talking about some of the most important source manuscript are these explanations manuscripts. There are carbon copies of one top sheet copy, but these Ramju's handwritten things are important too. So it's not going to come up very much unless you get into the endnotes or the supplement. So now we're back to the principal manuscript.
Resuming with explanations, lecture of 5 to 6, 1227, page 2. Proceeding, Shri explained. Now, when this ocean comes into motion from the outset, as depicted in figure 6 on the facing page, it precipitates in 3 things: waves, foam, and bubbles.
So here's that figure. Figure 6. So we better take a minute and unpack it all. So here's that original. You see, these figures are actually building on each other. You can see the relationship, right? This is the simple version with God the Absolute, and then Om point. But now the creation is coming into the picture. By the way, here's the source diagram that we were working from. This is from Ramju's handwritten manuscript again. So we developed it more. So here's the Om point, the creator point. Here are waves and bubbles. So we're going to start to get an explanation of all of that stuff. There's not just bubbles, there's waves also. So here's Nadia did a blow up of what a wave bubble. There are drop bubbles and there are wave bubbles. A wave bubble would be like our planet Earth, and a drop bubble would be like you or me, an individual Jivatma. So here on the bottom center, you see, a drop bubble. It's a drop and a bubble with Atma at the center, the whole thing being a drop bubble. Whereas the bottom right is a wave bubble. Notice the wave bubble does not have an Atma at its center. It's not a drop.
Ward, I'm wondering if maybe this is a good place to break for today and start with the diagram next time, because it does get, we've been at it for a while and people's brains are starting to drop out. Mine is. And let's
I think that's a good idea. We could just pick up here.
Yeah, let's do some Q&A.
Let me just mention the last one though, D, which is foam. And Baba says several times, I'll explain later what foam is, and he never does. So foam is a mystery. Yeah, I agree. This would be a good time to stop.
Thank you, all the readers. All right.
But you can see that we're really getting into it now, right?
Yeah, we are. That's the good part. Elizabeth, you had a question earlier?
Yeah, it might have been it could have been brain fog, but it seemed to me when he was talking about C, I thought he really must have meant D, because he was talking about Sadhguru. So I either misunderstood something.
You mean in the earlier diagram?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I made the comment, it was at the previous diagram. I think it was either 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think it was 4. Can you go back there?
Yeah, I think it was 4. Yeah. And it talked about the subdivisions. And Ward was explaining, I thought he was explaining D. And in the text, it says C instead of D. And that confused me. So I just wanted to get unconfused.
Yeah. Okay.
So it says refers to C, but it looked like it should have been referring to D.
So here's the talking about C, the ocean in motion.
Yeah, it starts with this, the portion labeled D depicts blah, blah, blah. And then it says, here too, every drop is one with the individual whole ocean, but all of these drops in C know that
that looks like a mistake. Maybe that's a mistake. Could be. I wonder if we corrected it or not.
Yeah, I think it must mean drops in D know they are the ocean.
Yeah, no, that's right. No, that's actually right. It should be D. I hope we picked up on that one.
Good.
Boy, I'll tell you, catching all the mistakes is like impossible. Yeah.
I just thought I was confused, but I'm glad that.
No,
Thank you for
could
asking.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes there is a reason for my questions.
Yeah. No, it's definitely should be D.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Now I'm
Right. And Diana.
Yes, I wanted to make just a comment, a connection I made that I enjoyed making. When we say the Master's Prayer, we say, "You are the soul of souls, the one with infinite attributes." And for the first time, I see here where, okay, right here, it's at the top of page 114, where Baba tells what the soul of souls is.
Mm,
He directly addresses
yeah,
that, and I appreciate that.
that's neat. That phrase, the soul of souls. Yeah, I can't think
It's
of.
at the
I
top.
wonder where.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right
yeah,
here.
right here. Yeah,
I've never seen it before in Baba's writing.
yeah, yeah.
And
Be
it's
nice to
broad.
do a search for soul of souls, see how often he uses that phrase. Because here it is, the original state of God, which is the source of all.
Mhm.
Although it's God unconscious, but it's the reality. Neat.
Cool. You guys are sharp today. Marion, you have a question. Unmute, please. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. It's personal for me, but it's just what I just read, where there was a listing right there, the third portion down further, with drops such as Christ, Krishna, Muhammad, Zoroaster, Buddha, Moses, etc., and indeed all Sadgurus, because I'm writing a memoir piece for myself personally about when I sat and watched the Ten Commandments movie. You know, here I lived in St. Louis then, and when it was released, I think it was 57, I'm writing about, because I had such an awakening experience in sitting in that film that I didn't understand at the moment because it was so long ago. But in writing about it, when I researched Moses in the Lord May here, Baba was saying Moses was on the sixth plane, and that's why it's in the Bible as a metaphor that he couldn't enter into the promised land, because the promised land was the seventh plane, but in the Bible, it's a metaphor. And so I thought, well, was he God realized on death, or did he get God realized after that? Do you know anything about that? Because I wanted to be accurate in my
I
writing.
know. I've been puzzled too, because there do seem to be contradictions. The main place where Baba seems to have said Moses was sixth plane was his commentary after seeing that movie that you're talking about, where he makes several comments. But in other places, Baba seems to include Moses in the lists of God-realized people.
Yeah.
So there seem to be some contradictions there.
Okay.
It's a little bit hard for me to believe that he wasn't God realized. I mean, holy smokes, look at what he did. But
because I thought Baba referred to when when the burning bush was like the Kundalini or something that was opening to the sixth plane, not the seventh. So anyway, it's confusing. I want to be accurate in my writing.
And I've wondered that too. There seem to be contradictory statements as far as I can tell.
Okay,
so
I hear,
what I've learned in my readings, and I can't tell you where, whatever, is that there came a time when Moses had the opportunity to see the promised land if he wished, or he could achieve God realization if he didn't. And that's when he turned around and ended up in Harvan district. And there is a tomb there and a bust of him that can be seen today. So that's what I got from that.
Interesting.
You know, in the Quran, I think Moses gets talked about more than anyone else. Huge emphasis. You see the word Shiv there. That's really another word, Shiv or Shivatma, like Jiv or Jivatma. This is kind of a commonplace in Hinduism, Jiv and Shiv, Jivatma, Shivatma. And Baba used that language a lot. So a Shiv is a God-realized person of any type. In this series of talks, Baba isn't going to get very much into the different types of God-realized ones, Majubs versus Jivan Muktas versus Sadgurus. Maybe he was going to go into that. As I may have mentioned, it's possible that this series of talks got cut off before Baba was done because of what was happening with Abdullah Pakrowan and some of the others.
Well, I wanted to encourage any of the shy ones who have not yet raised their hand and made a comment to go ahead and participate if you'd like. Comments, questions, your insights are always useful to somebody. So don't be afraid to make a comment. Elizabeth.
Okay, this is very small. In one of the footnotes, it looked like it's instead of spelling Jivatma, it said Jivatma. It had an M before it. And that was in a footnote to one of the figures. So it might have been 4, but I kept trying to read it, and I kept seeing. I always thought it was Jivatma, not Jivatma.
Yeah, no, it should be Jivatma.
But it's
but this one down here, something happened with the creation of this PowerPoint. I'm sure it's not in the original. All this stuff here, it's all jumbled. Yeah.
Any further questions on the?
There it is. It's in the chart. It's in the figure. So the figure, see,
Oh yeah, it is there. Wow. My God, you're catching mistakes all over the place.
Well, I'm not trying to. I'm just noticing and trying to.
Can you point to it? I don't see where she needs.
Yeah, no, right here. Yeah, C. Wow.
Oh yeah.
My God, I hope we caught that and took it out. Anyway, if we didn't, it's there. We proofread this thing so much, you wouldn't believe it. And yet these things slip through. God.
Who's doing the publishing of this?
Sheriar.
Okay. And so we can we pre-order it?
I imagine so. I haven't gone on their website to see.
Yeah, they're not taking pre-orders, but they are keeping a list of people who want to pre-order. So you can contact Sheriar Press for that. I think at this point it's an opportunity for me to stop the recording. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
And before we do that, I like to say the beloved prayer. So go ahead and unmute. And let's say it together. Beloved God, help us all
love you more
and more.
Till yet we become worthy of union with you. So hold fast.
Help us all to hold fast. Till the very end.
Avatar, Meher
Baba Ki Jai.
Avatar,
Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar, Meher Baba Ki Jai.
Okay, let me stop the recording and then we can chat a bit here. 1 second.